Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your host, the always opinionated Parris Lilly. This is Gamertag Radio.
Welcome to episode 940 of Gamertag Radio. This is Parris, and for this episode, got a special treat for you guys. I was able earlier this week to sit down with our good friend over at Massive, Yannick. He is the live content manager for The Division 2. So got a chance to meet up with Yannick again. Last time we spoke was at the preview event for The Division 2, but this time we're able to sit down and have a conversation about the upcoming episode 1 that's coming for The Division 2 as well as Title Update 5, along with just some of the improvements that are going to come with Title Update 5. Got in depth a little bit about Episode 1, the new missions that are coming, the expeditions, how that gameplay will work versus what we've previously had in the game, as well as the classified assignments, which are exclusive to the Year 1 pass owners, as well as, some of the new weapons that we can expect. There's a new exotic weapon, some of the crafting changes that are happening, and just overall the improvements to like the skill builds, things of that nature. Then finally, we got into the raid. We got into Operation Dark Hours, and there was some controversy before that raid came out about matchmaking and just the difficulty of the raid. So what Massive was able to do was they introduced a new discovery difficulty mode. So basically it's going to allow people to go into the raid, be able to kind of just check out the layout of it, the mechanics, etc., and as well as introduce matchmaking. So we got into a nice discussion about Operation Dark Hours, this new difficulty mode, as well as matchmaking in a raid. So I love the conversation. I thought it was great. Always a good time to talk to those guys over at Massive about the Division 2. You all know I play the game. I already have hundreds of hours invested into it. I love the game. And, I try to be as honest as I could about, hey, here's what I'm really liking. Here's what I didn't like, currently in the Division 2. I try to keep everything fair and balanced because, like I said, I am first and foremost a gamer. I like playing games. I like having fun playing games, and this is one that I'm invested into, and I want it to be the best version of the Division 2 it can possibly be. So again, this was a great conversation with Yannick. I want to thank him. I want to thank Ubisoft for setting this up and allowing us the chance to have a nice conversation about the Division 2. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and roll into the interview. Go ahead, sit back, relax, listen, and as always, leave us your feedback.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
Hey everyone, this is Parris. You guys know how much I love the Division 2. I've been playing it since launch, done the raids, I've done everything. So I've been very excited since they announced the official date for Episode 1 and Title Update 5 to come out. So I was like, you know what? Let's get somebody over at Massive to talk about this. So please, sir, can you introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yannick Banchereau. I'm a live content manager here at Massive, working on the Division 2.
Thank you, Yannick. And last time we spoke, it was actually at the Division 2 preview event in San Francisco. And I remember we were trying to get raid information out of you, but not really because I didn't want the raid spoiled. So it was a great conversation. So thank you again for... Yeah. So thank you for taking a little bit to talk to me about Episode 1. So let's just jump right into that. What is Episode 1 for the Division 2? Let people know.
First, Episode 1 is actually our first major episode for the Division 2. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to bring new narrative and new story and keep adding to the main story of the game. So here we are going to be sending the agents outside of the direct boundaries of Washington, D.C. to kind of explore and go on the hunt for new threats that are appearing there. So it's really going to be the first major narrative story drop for the game that's then going to be followed by Episode 2 and Episode 3. But of course, there's also many other things that are coming with it. It's not just about the main missions. We have a bunch of new things.
Well, and that's the thing. So there's two main missions
Yes.
that's coming. Looks like it's going to be Camp White Oak and then Manning National
Correct.
Zoo. Is there, without spoiling anything, obviously, is there a little bit of insight that you can provide into those two
I mean,
missions?
it's two very exciting missions for us because it's completely new environments that we created for those missions. So it's going to feel completely different compared to what people have experienced from the main missions in the main game. Because here, as I said, we're going outside of Washington D.C. So expect something that is much more, focused on, like for Camp White Oak, for example, much more nature. It's going to be like in forest and assaulting a very specific location. And as far as the Manning National Zoo, well, imagine everything you could expect from a zoo 7 months after the fall of society. So it's gonna feel very, very different in terms of visuals, in terms of experience, in terms of how do we approach combat.
Oh, that's great because I can say just obviously from experience playing the main story missions through the Division 2 so far has been great. I've loved the structure and just the way that they've weaved the story in there and the whole thing. So one other thing that's coming with episode 1 is you're dubbing it a new experience, the expeditions. So can you kind of talk about what are expeditions and what can people expect?
Yes, so Expeditions is a new experience that we're creating with episode 1. And the idea was, how do we build on this idea of exploration and ciphers and mysteries that we know people enjoyed a lot with the release of the game. For example, with when we had the hunter ciphers, and a lot of people were trying to figure out how do we find them. So we wanted to build on that and actually dedicate a whole experience to it. And this is what Expeditions is focused on. It's a new area that once again, the agents of the division have to go explore. They are going there to try to find the traces of a convoy that has gone missing. And it's a place that is basically taken over by the outcast. But it's not just going to feel like a normal main mission. Here we are talking about 3 different spaces, 3 different investigation sites, and each one of them comes with different kind of puzzles and mysteries that you need to solve in order to progress. So it's really focused on different mechanics compared to just purely combat as you would have in a normal main mission.
So would you say it's kind of an iteration on like right now if you go into the world you can find some of the contaminated zones and it's basically like a big
Yes.
puzzle where you have to go in and you have to explore to figure out obviously to get to the end destination of what you're trying to find there. So is this just kind of like an iteration on
Yes,
that?
exactly. It's really the idea of we really don't want to hold your hand with the expedition. So it's not like
Yes.
like a main mission where we would say, okay, go in that room, beat all the enemies, then go in the next room, follow your GPS, and go in the next room. Here, it's really going to be much more open. So it's really up to you as an agent to figure out how do I actually achieve my objective? Where is that next room that I have to go? We are not going to tell you where it is. You have to find your way around and learn basically the geography of the area as well to make sure that you can complete each of the objectives. So it's really much more of a learning and exploration process.
Very nice. So the classified assignments, and I know this is actually exclusive to year
Yes.
1 pass holders, but there'll be more classified assignments coming here with episode 1. So for people that don't know what classified assignments are, can you kind of talk about that
Yes,
a little
so as you mentioned, the classified assignments are exclusive content for the year 1 pass owners, and these are narrative experiences that are, have different sizes, but about the size of a side mission or sometimes a bit bigger. And it's purely narrative. It's really an opportunity for people to explore and experience the fall of Washington, D.C. So it's added story. It doesn't necessarily add to the main story of the game, so you're not missing anything if you can't play them. But if you play them, you get to discover new stories and new elements that kind of like build the whole lore of what happened in Washington, D.C. during those 7 months. And each one of them, of course, comes with exclusive cosmetic rewards that you can collect. And then when you get all of them, you get even more cool cosmetic stuff to show.
Very nice. So side missions. I know we've obviously seen what people can expect, but will there be any side missions / quote unquote secret missions that potentially could be showing up here in episode 1? And an example I want to bring up, and I'm blanking on the name of it now, but there was one kind of secret side mission where you went in and you kind of found out more about the CIA and things like that, and it was an unexpected thing where I almost felt like I was being educated at the same time as I was playing it. So can people expect any of those things coming with episode?
Well, we don't have side missions per se coming with episode 1, but we're always looking at adding new small narrative elements like that. We know that this is something that is very very dear to our players, and yes, we've seen the success. We've seen how people enjoy discovering new secrets like that. So this is something, as soon as we have an opportunity, we want to do it. Will there be some in episode 1? I'm not telling you. You will have to find out. But yeah, this is something we really like as well.
Okay. I'm going to get to the new raid thing in just a minute, but I kind of want to stick on what we were just saying. And when it comes to currently right now with World Tier 5, so obviously we're not getting a World Tier 6 or anything like that coming with episode 1, but is there anything changing structurally to the way we do it right now with the strongholds and the invaded missions? Will these new missions that we're getting in episode 1, will they have invaded variants of them as well?
No, not directly with episode 1. They will not be invaded. This is something we are interested in adding later on. So in terms of the structure of World Tier 5, it's going to be pretty much the same structure. You're going to be able to, of course, play the main mission, the two main missions. The two main missions will be added to the rotation of, your daily projects and these kind of things. They will not be added to the invasions right away. So yeah, expect something fairly similar, but of course, and I guess we will get to that, there's a lot of changes as far as gear goes, and especially skills. So of course there's going to be a lot of new things to look for and to do in the end game part with episode 1.
Oh no, absolutely. I definitely want to get into the skills and some of the weapons. So let's actually start with the weapons, because we know we're going to get a new exotic weapon, the Diamondback rifle, and looks like exotic gear, I'm going to say this correctly, the BTSU data gloves. Yes. And then we're getting two other weapons, the Stoner LMG and the Carbon 7. So this actually kind of brings me into a bigger thing with the Division 2. And look, I'm going to take it from my standpoint. I'm going to be selfish about this. While I love the customization and I love the perks that we get with the weapons, I'm not necessarily excited about the way we obtain our weapons all the time. I feel like everything's very RNG, which is great, but I don't feel like we have enough structured ways to get weapons. Like, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the SMG, the exotic SMG, Chatterbox. I love that. I love all the steps that had to go into that to get it. I felt like I actually earned it going through those, and I don't feel like we have enough of those type of Chatterbox type quests in the Division 2. So can we expect any kind of changes to the way that we obtain gear as we go into episode 1?
I mean, that really depends on the gear. When it comes to exotic items, we really like this idea of this kind of like objective focused, I don't even know if we have an official name for it, but this kind of crafting quest, I would call them, where you have to find the pieces, like the Chatterbox, as you mentioned. You have to find the pieces. Yes. You have to solve the riddles in a way and understand how to get each one of those pieces, and then you can build your weapon. And we did that for some other items, some other exotic items as well. So this is something that we like because we like to propose an alternative to just grind this mission and hope to get a chance out of whatever 0.5% to actually drop the item you're looking for. We like to give alternatives, so that's something that we're pretty happy with in the Division 2 in the way of delivering exotic items. So that's something we want to keep doing, not necessarily for all of them, because it's interesting to also link specific items to specific activities, not always use the same way to deliver them. And that's something that we could be interested in using more in the future, but also giving more control to the players as to how to obtain items. But as far as episode 1 goes, it's not necessarily we're not going to be doing just that. Like the I lost the name now. The Diamondback, for example, is a reward in the expeditions. So that's also a way for us to, give us, add specific cool rewards, gameplay rewards to specific activities. So here, of course, we have a new activity, a new experience coming. So it made sense for us to link an exotic item directly to that.
And I guess that's what I'm kind of saying. Like you mentioned, obviously, Diamondback's going to come in the expeditions where there's specific things that, and they can be very complex. It doesn't have to be an easy thing. I don't want you to just hand me an exotic weapon, but I want to feel a sense of that I've earned it, of sense that, hey, wow, I accomplished X, Y, and Z to earn this weapon. And it doesn't always necessarily have to just be RNG that I'm obtaining it. Maybe you're making me go to the dark zone. Maybe you're making me go to the raid.Maybe you're making me do various invaded stronghold missions, things of that nature, and that's fine. But I just don't think there's enough of it right now, I guess is kind of my point. But again, I'm not. Go ahead.
I think it comes down to having control. It feels good to actually have control and know when you can expect that you're going to get something, or know how I want that specific item. What are the steps that I need to complete to actually get it? So that's something that, of course, is very satisfying when you have that control, and at the end, at the expected moment, you actually get what you want. And this is something that, moving forward, we want to try to do more. We want to be able to give more control and more, allow our players to know when they can expect to get stuff and what kind of stuff. So this is something we're looking at. And this kind of crafting quest, as I call them, is one way of doing that, for example. And we are absolutely looking at exploring more avenues to kind of, touch on that control feeling.
Great. That's great. I'm loving that. That's exactly what I want to hear. So one other thing, and I could be wrong on this, so please correct me, but did I hear that, the snitch, where you get the secret vendor, is the secret vendor going to start is the secret vendor going to have exotic weapons? Did I hear that correctly?
You know what?
Or there's a change to the secret vendor somehow in this update, I guess is what.
You know what? I don't even remember. There's been so many changes already in the way we're distributing those items, but I don't want to say anything wrong, so I'm not 100% sure if that was part of the changes.
No, and I'm not 100% sure either. That's why I was like, I swore I heard
double
something
check
about that,
and
we'll move on from that. So I'm going to hold the raid stuff for last, because there's definitely a conversation I want to have about the raid before we run out of time here. But you mentioned that we're going to get crafting improvements, as well as, we're going to start to see improvements to skills and weapons balancing. Is there anything you can talk about on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we hear the conversation in the community, and we agree with everyone that, build diversity is not exactly where we would want it to be. And until now, there was very little incentive to build outside of just weapon damage, basically. And so the skill pass that we're doing, especially the skill pass with episode 1, is, it's a very important step for us in order to make skill builds viable. And that's something that we're very attached to, because skills are a very important part of the division, and we want to make sure that you're rewarded if you're investing in that. So that was a very important part for us, and we're pretty happy where we landed with that. And then, of course, yes, the improvements to crafting is just. The idea is just crafting is also a very important part of the game. It's a very important part, actually, of the progression part of the game when you're playing the campaign, and even as you're progressing through the world tiers. But then when you reach world tier 5, and especially when you reach gear score 500, then suddenly crafting became completely obsolete because you couldn't get 500 items out of it. So it was very important for us to adjust that, because we want crafting to be part of the end game. We want crafting to be part of the min-maxing, min-maxing part of the game. So it was very important for us to not only put 500 items there, but also remove that rule where you were not able to recalibrate crafted items. Now, it's no longer going to be the case. You can recalibrate or craft a 500 item and use it for recalibration the same way that you would do with any other loot. So that means that by adding crafting back into the equation, that means that also all this quote-unquote trash loot that you would get becomes relevant again, because all of that is potentially the materials that will allow you to craft the pieces you want. So hopefully all of that is going to contribute to a more healthy and fun, gear game in the end game.
Oh, trust me, this absolutely is the direction I want to see this go, because I say for myself, like you mentioned, as far as the builds goes with skills, I have zero incentive to make a skill build right now. Why? I mean, like as example, if I go into Operation Dark Hours, a skill build does me no good in it, because everything is damage based, right? A damage build is what I need if I want to accomplish anything in the end game right now. So, but I want to have that variety of being able to have different type of builds. So this is exciting that this is headed that direction. So really looking forward to this when we get into Title Update 5, and I'll be able to play around with it more, because I didn't get a chance with the PTS server to play around. So I'm really
there's going to be a lot that you can experiment with there. So I'm looking forward to it as well. I love skill builds. I love playing with skills in the first game. So I love my Firecrest build. So I'm really excited to bring the skills back and try it on my own.
Exactly. So final thing here as we wrap up, I want to talk about the raid. I want to talk about Operation Dark Hours. You are now introducing a new discovery difficulty for the raid, as well as matchmaking. And before I get your comments on this, because I just have to say this, because I like to be transparent, because I'm very, very opinionated on social media and other places how I feel about the game and the raid. So I've been against matchmaking from day one. I was like, because I've played Destiny, I played other raids, and I know the difficulty of this, and I know how hard it is to get 6 to 8 people together to communicate and coordinate as one to accomplish this. Having completed Operation Dark Hours and knowing the difficulty that goes into this, and the coordination, the communication that goes, it just solidified my opinion that currently a random matchmaking at this difficulty for the raid, do not do it. You're just going to wind up discouraging people from ever wanting to try this again. That's my personal opinion. But with that said, I understand, and let me backtrack on that. I personally would like to see some kind of in-game LFG system to get like-minded people together, so you can kind of guarantee that people are all ready to do it, have the communication, things of that nature. I think that, to me, is the ultimate solution to this. But I see what you've done with this. You're introducing a different difficulty, and you're introducing matchmaking. So with all that said, can you kind of talk about that and what your thoughts was going into putting this into?
Yeah, so there's two benefits for us to adding the discovery difficulty with the raid. One benefit is we want to make the raids available and accessible to people that are not necessarily equipped to actually do the normal difficulty. There's a lot of people out there that would love to be able to try the raid, but are just discouraged at the idea of how hard it's going to be. So the discovery is one way for us to make it accessible to a larger audience, to the people that are not necessarily, the min-maxed of the min-maxed, that are a bit more like have more standard gear, where you don't necessarily need to have this coordination and like talking to each other. It's a bit more of a bit more laid back experience, even though it can still be tough. So I mean, you shouldn't take it too easy. But the other aspect with it was especially with the matchmaking, because just to be clear, we are adding matchmaking only to the discovery difficulty. We are still not adding matchmaking to the normal difficulty of the game. And the idea for us here is to try to make the discovery difficulty an opportunity for those people that would want to be able to matchmake for the raid, to be able to do it through the discovery difficulty, and hopefully there meet these like-minded people that are also looking for other people, practice on the discovery, and once they're ready and once they've met enough people and made enough friends and potentially even joined clans that way, then they are fully equipped to go and create their own group in order to go in the normal difficulty. So it's kind of an in-between step that we hope is going to allow people to meet more, raid-focused or raid-oriented other players, and therefore make these friends and meet these groups that then will allow them to eventually step up all the way to the normal raid.
That's great. I really hope this works the way that is intended, to get more people to actually try the raid, understand some of the basic mechanics of it. So then, like you said, they can actually step up and do the normal difficulty of it. So the other question on that is the actual loot. what kind of loot will be dropping in this discovery mode? As an example, I would doubt you would get Eagle Bear at the end in this mode.
Yeah, that is correct. We're giving you 500. So that's a way, playing the discovery mode is actually a way for you to gear up pretty fast. But therefore, we are not giving you any of the exclusive rewards of the raid. So not the Eagle Bearer, and none of the gear sets either. These are still exclusive to the normal difficulty of the raid. So once again, the discovery version is just either something you do to discover the environment of the raid, or something you will do as a training practice in order to eventually beat the normal raid. But we don't want the discovery version to become an easier way to grind for the raid items. This is not the intention with that mode.
Okay. And again, because I'm just a longtime raider, and that to me is the whole point of this is meant to be the ultimate,
Yes.
challenge in the Division 2 right now, right? So I'm happy to see that we're seeing basically someone to be able to dip their toe in it, to at least see what it looks like and understand it. But I still think, if you're going to get the ultimate rewards from it, it needs to be at the difficulty intended by the developer. Now, one final question on this before we wrap it up. Is there any chance or idea down the road of putting in a quote-unquote hard mode for Operation Dark Hours, or is this it?
No, that's something, that's an idea we like, absolutely. So that's not a door we want to close, absolutely not. That's also going to be depending a bit on how people react to having different difficulties and what kind of rewards could we add to actually an even harder version, of course.
Yes.
So that's something we'd like to explore at some point, absolutely. But it's not the plan anytime soon.
Oh, and bonus question, I apologize. So just along those lines, are there still discussions as far as introducing some kind of in-game LFG for the raid, so you can get people together in the game to actually then go jump into the harder difficulty of the raid versus discovery?
That's kind of the same. It's an idea we like. First, we want to see how the discovery with the matchmaking there is going to help, because we believe that it's going to help a lot of people to actually prepare and again meet like-minded people. So hopefully this is going to be a very good step. And then we'll see where we go from there, basically, if we need to keep adding more.
Awesome. So just go ahead and wrap this up. Episode 1 and title update 5 both drop on July 23rd?
Yes, so they drop on July 23rd. That is also when the early access begins. So as a reminder,
Yes.
that means that people that own the Year 1 pass will directly get access to everything. Those who don't own the Year 1 pass will have to wait 1 week before they can jump in the new main missions and into the expeditions.
Excellent. Yannick, as always, thank you for this conversation. I can honestly talk for hours about the Division 2, but we'll leave it here for now. But thank you again for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to talk about Episode 1, talk about the raid, the Division 2 as a whole, and really looking forward to it when it comes out on the 23rd, and then, like you said, the 30th
Yes.
for anyone that's not a Year 1.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always good to talk to you, and I'm just super excited as well. I can't wait. So yeah, really looking forward to next week.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.